Hi, this is Doron Broman from Moderno Development and the Moderno Investors Club. I have a special guest with me here today, Robert Mathias from NCC Development. He's also my co-developer on Riverloft. It's a very interesting life story, career path, experiences, lessons learned that he's going to share with us today, which are perfect for any young professional who wants to build his career in real estate, can learn a lot, or any person who wants to invest in real estate development. Robert is the person who can tell you a lot of things and teach you a lot. I've definitely learned a lot from him in the past 2 years, and it's been an honor and a great pleasure working with him. So Robert.
Yes.
How you doing?
I'm doing fine.
Good. So tell us a little bit your story, where you grew up, how you started, where you went to school, a little bit about your career path, the steps you had to go to reach where you're now a very successful real estate developer in South Florida with tens of projects all over South Florida.
Well, the question is, how much time do we have? One. But so, two. So I'm an only child. Both of my parents remained married until they passed. And I'm the youngest of all my cousins. And so one of the things that I've always heard is, when we went to school, is to stay in school as long as you can. You'll have so much fun in school, get a good education, surround yourself with the right people. And so as a young kid, I was like one of the only white kids in my neighborhood. I think I was a tremendous athlete.
Which neighborhood?
I went North Miami. Norland Senior High is where I graduated back in the day. And so wanted to play professional football. Unfortunately, my height caught me. And so although I was extremely quick, ran the 40, and believe it or not, like 4.3, which is very fast, my coaches gave me the best advice. And that was back in the day, listen, at the end, if you have an opportunity to get an education, you should get the education, because the chances of you playing professional football is probably pretty slim just based on your massing, right? And so you're gonna run into a wall every day, and eventually you could get hurt, and that takes care of your career. So at this point in your life, these next 5 years coming out of high school will be the most important years of your life, because that 5 years will determine the balance of what you'll do for the rest of your life. So I said, okay. And I've always had a love for architecture. Even as a little boy, there's pictures of me drawing. And I always said I wanted to be an architect. So I was fortunate enough to go to the University of Miami. I have a degree in architecture, took some law courses, came out, was recruited from a career day at University of Miami, worked there, met a couple of guys after I graduated out of college. And we started an architectural firm. One of them.
Just straight out of college?
So I was in college. Then I did an internship at this company. And then from there, I met a couple guys, and I went back to school. It was like a summer. Then I went back to school. Then I did the winter back at while we had a winter break. Then went back to school, and then I graduated, and they offered me a position. There I met, it was a big firm. I met a couple of guys. And I said, we should go on our own. And so I was young. One of the guys had a license, which would qualify us.
After how long you were working in that company, you went on your own?
2 years.
So in retro, that was a good idea, or you would have
Great idea.
Longer?
No, I think it was a point where I just always wanted to do my own thing.
Right.
And so I got a chance to work for some really great architectural designers in the design department. So I was lucky to work in a design department for an architectural firm. And we decided to do a construction company and an architectural firm together. And so I did that for about 4 years. And then we didn't make any money. We made just enough money just to skate by. But what the lessons learned there was, we got into developing or building and designing high-end custom homes, 10,000 square foot homes. And the issue with that is they're not repeat clients. And so you build a home, you spend 2 to 3 years with them, and then eventually that project is completed. It's not like other areas in architecture where they're just repeat. Like with the architects we use today, I got a great job, What are your thoughts on this project? And you just continue.
Right.
They're one and dones. So then I thought, well, you know what? Maybe I'll go to law. Oh, and then I was involved in a lawsuit because somebody got shot in one of our projects that we designed.
Wow.
And there was an ATM machine there. And so
you got sued?
Everybody on the project, everybody got sued.
Wow.
And so there was a couple of young kids that were 12, 13 years old, stood behind a column where you go to get to the ATM machine. And they went to rob the guy. He wouldn't give them any money. They shot him and they left. He became paralyzed, and then we all got sued. And I thought, how horrible, one. And two, my attorney was telling me, if this guy passes away, it's different than if he stays alive because the lawsuit is different. You have to figure out how to handle them for the rest of his life because he became a quadriplegic from that where he got shot. So he was living in a wheelchair. It took us months and months and months to get released out of the lawsuit. And I thought, I got to do something else. That just frustrated me so much. And I ended up telling a friend of mine that I was maybe looking into getting into real estate. I had some background in real estate. And he introduced me to a partner that ran a very large multifamily development company in the nation at the time.
What was the name?
JPI.
I heard you talk a lot of times about JPI.
JPIU. I got a chance.
Came out of JPI.
Yes.
All the big executives right now in the market, there's a lot of them that came out of JPI.
A lot of guys came out of JPI.
Tell us a little bit about that.
What a great
experience. Yeah.
Great experience. Got a chance to work for some of the brightest minds in real estate development with contract writing and all the things that goes along with it. And I happen to work for a gentleman that was a Harvard grad, very, very disciplined, no nonsense. And so I learned a lot from him. And so then I worked there for 4 or 5 years.
Was that in Miami? Or?
No, that was in Boca.
Boca.
In Boca. And so on that project, oh boy, I did Jefferson, all their companies, all their projects were named Jefferson for the presidents.
Right.
And so that's where they became JPI. They had different disciplines at one time. And then Jefferson's were all the apartments. They did Lincoln's for office, et cetera, from what I understand. And so they decided, let's only do apartments. And so they reorganized and then they only did apartments. So I ended up working for that company. So we did Jefferson at Promenade at Aventura, which is in Aventura. Then everything else was Jefferson. Jefferson at Deer Creek, Doral, what else? Hampton, no, that's another project. That was Jefferson at Wyndham Lakes. We did a deal in downtown Flagler, which was their first. Downtown Flagler was in West Palm Beach, Flagler.
Downtown Flagler and West Palm Beach.
Yeah, in Flagler, West Palm Beach.
They also have a Flagler Street?
They do, they do. And so that was their first mid-rise project that I happened to tie up the dirt.
Apartment building.
Apartment building, little about 400 units.
How different than those apartments then than the ones you see today?
A lot. The difference is really the finishes. The finishes, the amenity packages that we give today, the technology packages that were in these buildings compared to where it was before.
Yeah. So how many years were you in JPI?
I was there for 4 years.
Wow.
4 years.
JPI University.
JPIU we call it. So even today, then I got a phone call one day, or actually the partner walked over to me and he handed me a piece of paper and he said, oh, by the way, you have a new boss today. And he's in Dallas, his name is John O'Connor. And so John calls me every year on my birthday, calls all of us. And it was about 12 of us, I call it the hit squad. Brought us in and he said, you don't respond to anybody but me. You don't report to the partners anymore. You don't report to anybody. You only report to me. And so I'm the guy that you're going to get these projects built. And so every morning he'd call me at 7 a.m. and he'd say, you ready to go to work? I'd say, I'm ready, Mr. O'Connor. He said, get out there and kick some ass. I'd say, yes, sir. It's like being in the military. I love that guy. And so Fast forward, I got a phone call from ZOM, Z-O-M, and they were looking for a regional partner. And so I got into that conversation and ended up taking that position and worked
They're
there.
a pretty big developers, right?
Big development company.
South Florida?
South Florida. Today, back then they were only in Florida.
Okay.
And there were 3 of us that reported to the CEO.
Yeah.
And then today they're all over the US, I think. And they do an amazing job. And so each partner that I worked for, those guys were really, all had different, what's a good word? They all had different ways that they approached development, they approached employees, they approached a lot of things at that time.
So, and where were they based, in Miami or?
No, so those guys were also, wherever, they were in Dallas for JPI,
Right.
and then ZOM was all in Orlando.
Orlando.
And so
The office here in South Florida.
I opened up their first satellite office for ZOM.
Yeah.
And so they wanted me to work in South Florida, but to live in Orlando, and I said, that doesn't really make a lot of sense.
If I remember correctly, you did some impressive projects with them, right?
Yes, I did. I got
Money
a,
Memphis, the State Herald. Did you
yeah,
see it?
yeah. So all the Waverlys. Waverly had
The
South,
Waverly, right, exactly.
South Beach, Surfside, Los Olas, was involved in the Hotel Victor next to
Did I
Versace's
ever
house.
tell you the Waverly in Las Olas, which today, is a little older than that, but when I moved here, South Florida, and I bought my first condo, I met the seller or the broker, someone, the coffee shop was a Starbucks next to the Waverly Las Olas.
Yep.
And I remember driving, looking at the building with the colors, and it was very impressed. Wow, that's so nice. That building. It's very different with the colors
Yeah.
they have what would you see in Israel. And I thought it's a beautiful building. It's very impressive. And I remember I had a friend who was just doing a showing there for a rental, I think, or something. Yeah.
So those guys did a great job, ZOM and the CEO at
So I
that.
never thought I'm going to be partnering.
Isn't that crazy?
That project.
Small world.
20 years later, or another 20, 15
Yeah.
years later, another project. Yeah.
That was an exciting project.
Yeah, definitely. And the ones in South Beach, I know, is a very successful building also, right?
Yes.
Still today.
Yep.
The location there is an amazing location.
Yep. Great architecture.
Right. Who was the architect?
Architectonica.
Both of them.
Architectonica, and then one of their employees left, and he went and started his own company, architecture firm, and we used their group.
Oh, Victor.
Victor Yu.
Victor Yu from
Victor Yu.
Gorski Yu,
Yep,
which you introduced to me later on.
I did. Victor does a great job.
Yeah.
I've been very fortunate. All the architects I've worked
I forgot
with.
the part that he came from architecture.
Yeah. Victor and I spent a lot of time together when we were doing
He's
the
a funny
Waverly.
guy.
He's very
Nice
good.
guy.
He's good. He's very good at what he does.
I tease him about the money.
Perkins and Will, who did the Hotel Victor, very good. Marie Salazar, I can go down the list.
So how many years were you in Zam?
Let's see, 4 years.
4 years. And then what happened after 4 years?
I got an
You get
opportunity.
tired of it?
No,
you
no.
needed something new?
No, I just had an opportunity at that time.
Were you looking for an opportunity, or
Yes.
was an opportunity just knocked on your door and said, "Hey, Robert"?
It was kind of both.
Opportunity.
It was kind of both. It was kind of both.
Usually, you say people are looking for opportunities, or opportunities come to them.
The opportunity came to me because I had a guy that I met back at JPI, and we were running parallel. And so as we ran, we found somebody that would invest in us that we knew. And one day he said, I'm going to build a dream team. That's how NCC got started. And so David and I,
What does NCC stand for?
New Century Companies.
Okay.
So Frank, who unfortunately is no longer with
But you
us.
still own NCC until today. That's your company.
Yeah, so we had a company called New Century Companies.
Right.
And so that was Frank, me, David, and his son JP, the 4 of us. And so we were developing for sale product.
Right.
So back in the day, David and I knew each other because we worked together.
Condos, townhouses, single houses. What were you doing?
Well, when I was at ZOM, just doing
No,
apartments.
but when you started NCC,
We were doing for sale townhouses.
townhouses.
For sale townhouses, high-end townhouses and spec houses in Royal Palm and Boca.
Okay.
And so,
Back in Boca. Boca has been your
yeah, Boca
farm in Boca all the time, right?
Boca and Del Rey. And so this was in 2000, a long time ago, 2003.
Okay.
Just had my first daughter.
You started your company 2003. You just had your first daughter.
Yep.
You're building.
Just jumped. I had a good feeling.
Townhouses in Boca.
Just let's do it. And so David said, Robert.
Looks good.
I know what the
Did you start making money?
Not for a couple of years.
Okay.
It took a little while.
Okay.
And so, but we started, I was looking, somebody approached me at a seminar, believe it or not.
Townhouses are not that, I did some townhouses, they're nice, but they're not that profitable. Right?
Well,
a lot of work.
We had a community of 90, a
Right.
community of 57,
Oh, wow.
20. And so they would have been, we got caught in the down market. Right?
Would you do townhouses again, like
Yeah.
90 unit
Yes.
community?
Yeah.
I'm always trying to find them.
Yeah.
I love townhouses. I love the product itself, the concept. It's not a single house on a con somewhere in the middle.
Yep.
Right.
Yeah. And so we just got caught in the market back then.
So you started, and then when the market, so you had them all come in the market. When the market started collapsing here, 2007, 6?
Yep. 7A is like they just got turned off.
Right.
But prior to that, so David, somebody said, hey, by the way, just approached me at a seminar. And he said, hey, are you Robert Mathias? I said, I am. He said, listen, I've been kind of following you. And we have a group of investors that would love to go ahead and invest in your group. What are your thoughts on that? I was like, well, I really didn't think about that. And he says, well, what are your thoughts? I was like, whoa. So we started having conversations. And then David, who I met at JPI, already kind of started down that path with Frank.
Yeah.
And David said, Robert, why would you go work with someone? If you're really going to leave, why would you go work with somebody when, in theory, you can come work with us? You won't make as much money because you're going to have to split the pie up more, but you know us.
Yeah.
And we'll have a lot of fun and we'll build some great projects together, just some kick-ass shit. And I was like, okay. And that was it. And so that's how I joined him and never left and started down that path.
They're still there, the guys.
Yes and no.
Right.
Frank passed away from cancer, unfortunately. He was probably in his mid to
What's
late
his last name?
70s. Demisa. So Frank Demisa.
How old was he when he passed?
I think he was 72,
Okay.
73, young guy.
Yeah.
And like my father,
Yeah.
you know, and his son JP, and us. And so David, JP, Frank, David, 4 of us, 4 knuckleheads.
So one pass, so there's 3.
One pass, economy starts to get slow.
Right.
We own a piece of property. We've got a bunch of loans out. We're negotiating every day, trying to stay above water, do the right thing, right? No
I
bad.
gotta tell you, that part, for me, I came here when the market crash started coming in 2009. And I always admired the companies that survived that period because that was a bloodshed, you know,
Right.
going on here. Banks collapsing and developers, all of them out of business. And, you know, the banks were going out of business.
Yes.
The cities were going out of business. They couldn't collect property. That everyone was just going out of business. And so wherever in that, I wanted you to talk about a little more, but the ones, there's a few only that managed to transform their business and make it out of it. A lot
Right.
of them went under all the way.
Yep.
Bankruptcies, closed the business, you know, lost all appetite to do it again. And so it was a big, it's like one of those things, one of those storms that's once every 50 years.
Right.
You don't get like the big depression of 1929 or something like that really hit the markets very strong. I remember coming here and, I mean, cities didn't have budgets for police officers, for teachers and things like that. So tell us a little bit how you guys managed to pull your boat out of that huge storm.
Well, I was 6'4". Today I'm 5'1".
Right.
So basically, what happened was, you know, we hired great legal counsel.
All right.
And the biggest thing that we found with the banks is they didn't really want to be in the real estate business. We didn't want to be in the lending business, but the key was no bad boy clauses, right? There was nothing, we didn't steal anything. Everything was above the board. We crossed every T, dotted every I.
A bad boy clause, for someone who doesn't know, means that you can't do anything criminal.
Correct. No criminal. You're not lying on anything. No fraud. You know, just you get unfortunate situations, right? Your dirt that you bought for $9 million is now worth $2 million.
Right.
So now you're in default because your loan to cost is upside down. loan to value. And so we just worked through, and it took forever just to work through, and knock on wood, that we ended up working, we were very fortunate with our legal counsel, the lenders that we used, their counsel, and everybody said, listen, we're in uncharted waters. Let's figure out a way to get out of this together. And not, we did lose a piece of land.
I remember that example you gave me, which is a great example for her. You opened, to save money, you guys opened your own landscaping. You did their own landscape and ran around because you couldn't pay the landscape company. And you did everything.
Yeah, we were doing anything we could do. Yeah. Ice cream, you name it, we did it.
Even an ice cream store.
We did it all.
Anything get a cash flow.
Anything so we can continue paying our own personal stuff. And so we opened up we had some property, and we were renting the townhouses, and we were writing checks to landscape companies, and we said, well, why don't we just open up our own landscaping company? Right. The worst thing that can happen is we fire ourselves. Right. When you cut grass, it grows back. We're in South Florida. It grows back really fast. Yeah. So we went and we bought landscape equipment, and we're taking turns on lawn mowers. It was ridiculous. But we got through it, right? We got through it.
Do you feel now, I'm sorry, I'm cutting a little bit.
That's okay.
This period right now, we see a little slowdown in the real estate. It reminds you a little bit, or it's not even close to what?
Not even close. Not even
but
close.
But still a little bit tough.
Yes. Yeah, it's tough now because I think everyone's standing on the sideline waiting to figure out who's gonna jump into the development world.
So anyone who thinks it's tough now doesn't know what went on here in 2007 and 8.
Oh, in 2007, the issue was that a lot
of the people who watch it, were just little kids.
Well, the difference is back then is your values just were, not even half of what it was before. So you'd buy something for $10 and it was worth $1. And so if you had a loan on it, it would put the banks upside down with the ratios of buying, and then you're in default.
Yeah. And the banks would have to sell it, take it, sell it, and raise the cash.
And so during all that time, we lose our partner, Frank, who passes away.
So he passes away right through that?
Right through the air, and which put us in default immediately because he was one of the signers and had a huge financial statement. And so we all signed on the notes, but again, you got to replace it.
On top of everything you have done.
So we were getting phone calls from...
It rains, it pours.
Oh, yeah. And so we were getting phone calls from our lender saying, Robert, we're really sorry about what happened to your partner and blah, 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 but please note that you're gonna get a letter putting you in default. Okay.
So how do you deal with that?
Well, we ended up just working everything out. But yeah, it was really tough times. And then we had a piece of land. We were going to take that piece of land. We owned the piece of dirt. It was an old mobile home park. It was supposed to be a phase 2 of for sale product. And then David and I, our backgrounds were apartments from JPI and ZOM, and he ran companies, I ran companies, etc. And so JP, his background was really high-end custom homes, and he's an amazing developer builder. And so he decided to maybe do that, or not do that. He does that. He's still doing it. He's very successful.
So you split ways?
We went our own ways. And it was just something because there wasn't enough for all of us to do. And JP was very, very good. He had the backing to go build other homes and do that. And he's kind of focused on it and has done an amazing job. And we talk all the time. And he's still, Boca. I think he's doing stuff out of the state now. And so I have a lot of respect for him. He's like my little brother, great guy and great family. And he has also a passion for cars. That was our passion together as we ran parallel. And so then fast forward into the apartment world. So we ended up hiring a broker. He went out and found us equity from a public investment company, and that we named Franklin. That was our first apartment as NCC. Just like my partner who passed away, we named it after him. And so when he was passing, he had a lot of his family money in that. And when he was, when we were at that point where we were getting ready to lose him, he asked me to make sure that I looked after his family.
Right.
And so it was just him and I in his room. Everybody was gone. And I said, if there was anything that I would do, I would make sure that his family, he had a little girl, he was married to one of our good friends, Janie. And so I felt it on my shoulders.
So they stayed in the project.
Oh yeah,
Is
yeah.
that the Ceru project?
No, that's Franklin.
Franklin.
That's the one in Delray.
Delray.
And so
It turned out to be a good project.
turned out to be a great project. And so we got they were happy, they got all their money back and then
great.
some. And that was my goal, was I told them if I do anything before I go, we will take care of his family and we'll get that out of the ground.
Right.
And so we got a sign that Janie, who was interior designer at the time, she was doing all our townhouses for us. And she had a sign that said, "Believe," that I still have in my office.
Right.
And it was just in a bookcase in one of the models. So when we sold that community, I took that sign.
Yeah.
And so I touch it. It's in my office right now. Every day I walk by and I hit that sign. Just like,
Oh, wow. You gotta send me a picture of that.
okay.
Nice, nice. So that was Jefferson, and then you went to, what was the next project? you guys-
So then
that was what year you guys finished Jefferson?
oh no, that was Franklin.
Franklin, what
The
year did
Franklin.
you finish Franklin?
That must have been in 16,
Okay.
17. And the funny thing is I said I wanted to name that project after Frank.
Right.
So we had an equity group come in and we were going to call it Franklin. And they said, we don't really like Franklin, the name. And I said to my partner at that time, David, I said, then we're not selling it. They're not going to be a partner.
Right.
He said, you're kidding me, right? They're willing to bring all the money or most of the money and we're going to do the deal. And I said, no, we're not. Unfortunately, he's not here to tell us the story. He ended up passing, but
He also passed away.
in an automobile accident,
When was that?
19 September.
You lost another partner.
I lost another partner, 2019.
All right, where was the automobile accident?
It was in
95?
yeah,
95.
well, close to I-95, but
Boca?
so Boca. So going back to that, so David walks in and he says, Robert, you won't partner with these guys because they want to change the name? I said, no, David. Idled it and sold it.
Sold it, and the other one next door. Ceru, you built
Right, with Main Street.
with Main Street, and you had an institutional investor also there, right? That's
Correct.
coming in from New York.
Yep,
And was that the first time you brought an institutional
No.
investor as a GP?
no,
A general partner? No, you've done it before.
yep.
Tell us a little bit the experience, like working with private investors or partners versus working with institutional investors. Like,
That's a good question.
Yeah.
And so the biggest difference is that, for me,
Yeah.
is when you do a friends and family
Right.
as your LP, your
Right.
limited partners. So you can raise $20 million, friends and family. And most of those investors, they just put their money in versus putting it into a bank or another venue. And then they just, we know each other. They just trust us to develop, to do what we're going to do by plans. When you're dealing with more of a investment group, they're a little more hands-on. The funds that those come from is a little different.
Is it like a weekly report?
Yeah, you're always on calls with your more of your investment.
They get the final say, or?
Depending, most of the time.
Yeah.
Most of the time.
Right. And then they decide when we sell, what we sell, what price.
When you're working with a big group, yes. It's usually the golden rule. Whoever brings all the gold makes all the rules.
On the other hand, they have deep pockets and
Right.
they're professional,
Right.
and they know they're not just they're seasonal real estate
Right.
investors.
But you end up with a lot of times you end up with guys that are protecting the fund but
Right.
don't understand as much real estate.
Right.
Some of them do, some of them don't. Just depends on which
Does
group
that
you work
fund
on.
does only real estate or does other investments?
Other investments. And so within that big circle
Right.
of a big investment fund, one will be dedicated to real estate, and those are usually real estate
All your
professionals.
meetings were Zoom and things like that, or they come down, you have to go?
They come down.
They come down?
They come down.
Yeah? They come down once a month, or?
Yeah, once a month they come down. The last couple of projects I've been very fortunate where I've had friends that have had nightmare stories, but all my investors that I've worked with from a public side, I'm gonna call it public, it's not a friends and family, most of those guys come from our group, like our world. It'd be like you or I deciding to go work for a fund. So you kind of had the experience, and so you can appreciate what's going on.
Ceru, based on the newspaper, I don't know if it's full published yet or not, but was it 130 or 139 million dollars?
Something like that.
$500,000 a door, which is quite an achievement at this time period right now, because a lot of money sitting, parking, waiting
Right.
to see what happened with the interest rate. Actually, after the Ceru deal, I've seen a few deals come to the market recently, so that kind of opened up
Right.
the flood, I think. And our good friend and broker, Peter Macros, has even said that was a great deal for the market. It shows confidence someone's willing to pay, 140 million at a higher valuation. And then you came with a great project, you did everything good, and at the end of the day, the final price you get is really dependent on what the Fed decides the interest rate at that point.
Unfortunately.
You can go from 200 million
Yeah.
to 140 million quite quickly. You still
Like that.
have money,
Right. We exceeded our,
Right.
but it's like anything.
but then it just money like vanishes like that for interest rate went up a few percent and it's
Yeah,
gone.
yeah.
The cap went 1% up.
It's something that you have no control over.
Right.
Zero control.
You can do your best,
Yep.
but then you need luck.
Yes. It's better to be lucky than to be good.
Yeah.
Better to be lucky than to be good.
Still amazing, yeah, but it would have been more amazing.
Right.
Right. You gotta be lucky for sure. And what are you working now on?
I got a couple other projects that I'm working on. So for me, until it comes out of
working Riverlots with us. And
Yeah,
we
working
have
out.
another project that I know about in Flagler Village.
Yes.
I saw the design of the building, beautiful building,
Yes.
30 stories, great location of Flagler. Tell us a little bit about that project.
It's 270 units,
Who's the architect?
FSMY.
Yeah.
And so they've done an amazing job.
Right. So
Very,
nice,
very,
nice.
very, very creative. Great team.
Modern, slick.
Right. Modern, slick. Put 2-story loft units on the 25th and on the 30th floor. So when you walk in,
Does it make it much more expensive, Robert?
no, because you're utilizing it becomes a little more efficient.
Right.
And so it's something I haven't seen in the market. Then I put this great big box on the
Give me
side.
an idea now.
Yeah, it hasn't. You haven't really seen them in the market, right?
Yeah, no, I love those units.
Yeah.
My daughter is crazy about those loft units.
I was watching a TV show and I saw it, and I was like, "Those are really cool."
Yeah.
And that's how we were just
like we have here.
Yes.
Loft up here. and
very similar to
I
this.
like that concept, high ceiling.
Very cool. Something a little
What's the name of
more.
that project?
It's right today. We don't have a name, but the holding of the name. excuse me, is Flagler SV.
We hired a marketing company,
Mm-hmm.
Sarah Shake from the marketing company, and for a new project, we had them come up with like 10 names. And no, it didn't cost us a lot. And then we came out with our house after we changed.
Oh, that's cool.
When we let a company decide a name.
So that's how we ended up with Ceru.
Right.
And so with Ceru, Ceru is shortened for cerulean, which was the color blue. And so back
That's
in
why
the
you have the blue also back.
and besides that, back in the day, that whole sub area had a huge lake,
Right.
and that's blue, like a blue lake. But that lake's no longer there.
Which language Cerulean is blue?
I don't know. What is cerulean?
know.
I don't know. What is cerulean? I don't know. But that's where the blue comes from. So we use the word ceru.
I got you.
And the same thing, we use the marketing company to come up with that name.
Flagler Village, very exciting project. When do you think you're going to start construction of that project?
We'd love to start construction first quarter next year, maybe end of this year.
Wow, so 6 months, 9 months, and then that you think,
Yeah, so we're in our
You
third
already got
round.
your zoning approvals,
Approvals are done,
and you're now working on your permits,
permits.
building permits. How's it go?
Excellent.
Are you doing a private provider? Or
Not for the review of the plans,
lessons learned?
lessons learned. So the city, and they've done a good job. The city's done a good job, the architects.
Same expediter, Tabby?
Yes,
Huh, good.
yeah,
She's good.
she's very good.
What's her last name?
I don't know.
You give her credit, but
I don't know what her last
Tabby
name.
got her
I
name.
have to look it up in my contacts because I have a lot of good contacts.
No, she's a nice lady, very professional.
Very good.
Great, so that's exciting. And what other exciting projects?
I'm doing some stuff in Gainesville.
Yeah, you told me about these.
So I have a
Is that
couple.
the one with the hotel you're doing there?
There's a hotel. There's
So it's a whole development.
500 acres.
500 acres.
Yeah,
That's a city.
it's a city.
500 acres.
So I don't know how much involved I'm going to be. I know I'll be involved in the apartment project of it, the
But
process
it's a lot
of
of
it.
planning. What are you going to
Oh
put there?
yeah,
And
so we did a lot.
Think about it.
Yeah, I like master planning. It's
So
fun.
it's going to be mixed use. I guess you're going to have residential rentals.
Residential, office, hotel, townhouse for sale, commercial. And so good friends of mine bought this land and they called me and said, hey, what are your thoughts on joining us to do some apartments? And I said, sure,
Cool.
I'm easy.
How about,
I'm easy like
how
that.
about Riverlofts? And you have Riverlofts, another project you're working, right?
That's
Should
that's
be-
a great project.
And you should be finishing it. When are we getting TCO?
TCO will be in November, Thanksgiving.
October.
I say Thanksgiving.
So that project is coming soon to a closure.
It is.
Great. Okay.
That's a great project.
So I want to ask you, we were talking a little bit about people that influence me. You were saying something about whether it's an organization or a person specifically that had a big impact in your life, kind of helped you maneuver your career, or or gave you good advice, or something like that you want to mention that had a big impact in your
Sure.
career.
So Neil Brown, huge influence.
Right.
He was the one, contract-wise, you got to put everything in order, right? Everything's in order. And then he brought on a guy by the name of Doug Hoy. And so Doug, very personable, great guy, everybody loves him, great vision, loved architecture, really enjoyed it. So you have one that's really about the investment, one's about the architecture. And so he's the one that gave me probably the best advice that said, one day you're going to work for several people, and each one of those people, they do things that are good and not so good. So the things that they do good, you try to repeat them, and the things that they don't do so good, you don't repeat it.
Right.
It was very simple. It's not brain surgery. I was like, okay, great. Then I got a chance to go work for Steve Patterson at ZOM.
Right.
Who was a huge visionary.
It's a big name, Steve Patterson.
Yeah, so Patterson today is at Related. He was the CEO of ZOM.
So now, what is the CEO of the Related now?
Yeah, he's the CEO of Related, multifamily. And so with Steve, he was a great visionary. Understood emotion. And people are willing to spend a little more money on their rent based on how they feel.
Right.
And you do that by creating the architecture. And then Frank, of course, who was huge because he was like my father and allowed us to go ahead and put all those things that we've learned and go do it yourself.
So let me ask you, Robert, like developers a lot of time, they like driving by, being proud, oh, this is what I did, you feel that accomplishment, the long process you had to reach, and the ups and the downs, and one morning you get up, and the next morning you're down, and it's not happening, it is happening, what's happening in the market, the investors. So you drive around a lot, you like driving, and so what are the three projects that you drive by, or if you had someone visiting here now, and you have the story of Robert, the three projects you would take and say, 1, 2, 3, this is the most proud I am of any projects.
So that's a good question, and people ask me that all the time.
Right.
And so I would say Franklin,
Right.
because I felt that was something
Franklin
in Delray
yeah.
with my partners, and that's because something I had a lot of weight on my shoulders. Personally, and so I took everything's very personal, but that one, out of anything, I mean, it's like having your father look at you and say, you need to help me out, make sure my family's good, and it turned out to be an amazing project, and so that
Second,
good architecture, but again, the family behind it, great project,
story, the whole.
and so
What would be number 2?
that's a good question. So 2, 3, it's almost like when you
have to rate
I
it.
can't
Don't be
rate it,
embarrassed.
but I can't. The reason is believe it or not, they're all great projects.
You gotta, someone comes and he wants to see your life story, 60 minutes, and then you have 3 projects to show us about Robert Mathias, you're proud of. There could be a lot of them, I understand.
No, I love different projects for different reasons.
Number 2, it could be a single family house that you love. I can show you. I'll tell you one of mine would be my first townhouse that I built.
Yeah.
And my ex-wife Natasha designed the architecture, and that is beautiful. We want to reward. And I'll tell you, that single house there is one of my most proud moments. What I would drive by, because it's the first one. It doesn't have to be big. Doesn't have to be. We didn't make that much money there. That's not the issue. It's we're not talking about how much return you got to your investors, about what you're proud of. Kind of like, wow, you drive by, yeah, I like it.
But
I did a good
believe
job.
it or not, I feel that almost about. There's only one project I don't like, and that's because we got caught with the bank, and my daughter's name's on a street.
By the way, you can cut it and send it to your mother afterwards. She'll be happy.
but I mean,
It's true.
the Waverly at South Beach, my first high rise, first tower, so exciting.
So number 2, the Waverly in South Beach.
That was also very exciting, and an landmark project, working with an architect, and so for me, having a degree in architecture from the University of Miami, and now Bernardo, who's the president of Architectonica, I'm his client.
Right.
So now he used to come and crit while I was in college, and you'd present these images, and they would crit you on it, and so now I'm his client. Right? So I'm calling all my friends that I went to school with. You won't believe this shit. But he's very talented.
Number 2. Number 3, last one. I know you have a lot.
I know. It's hard for me to say. I love all these projects. They're all great.
I know you love it. You gotta admit to it.
I don't know if the only reason I love the Waverly at South Beach so much is because it's my first tower.
Okay, we'll keep it at 2 then.
Okay. Then Caspian. I love Caspian Del Rey. No, it doesn't. That was a cool project. All of them have been great projects. My experience, and I've been very lucky. Yeah, and so the other thing is that
we're looking at the lights.
That's right. Those lights change
LED lights
based on my birthday and my kids' birthdays. So the whole building lights up.
You have to say, did the 4 West Las Olas?
Yes, 4 West.
Became now Grant Cardone bought it from you.
He did.
Became 10X Las Olas.
Yes. Yep.
That was a very successful project.
Great project.
And
good
that
co-developers.
Connected us together, because when I came to my partners, I said, "Hey guys, I have a great co-developer. He just built the building next door.
Yeah.
And he sold it, and it's very similar to our product. And he worked with Moss, and he worked with the same group and everything, so he knows the market." I said, "Okay, that's a no-brainer."
Right.
Only later we found out you're part of the tribe. You were hiding it. It would have made it easier.
I should have come with my yarmulke. Who would know these things? Who would know? Who would know? I should walk around with one in my pocket in case I need it. But great co-developers.
That's a great project.
That is a great project. And I love the architectural lighting on that project is my favorite.
And it's very nice and centrally located.
Yes. It's an icon.
What's your experience with Grant Cardone?
To believe it or not, mine was very minimum, 0. I just knew that he was looking at the building, signed a confidentiality agreement, and that was pretty much. And then I ran into him at Formula One one day, and I got introduced to him and shook hands, and that was it.
River Officer with Moss. That was that one he always told me was A+ Moss, right? And the architect got only $50,000 in change order, which is a record for the whole project. It's a $100 million project, and only $50,000 in change order.
Something silly.
When I met Victor Yu, he pulled out on his screen the change order, 50,000. The total, and said that's all we have.
Yeah.
He shows it to everyone.
Yeah, he should. He should be very proud.
Efficient. I mean, River Loss
did a great job on it.
Already changed whatever. But that was amazing. So that was a very efficient project.
Yes.
Very efficient.
Yeah. And so again, Moss, they've done an amazing job for all our projects that I've been involved with, and it's all based on the teams that sit across the table from you.
So Robert, one of me and Eyal, your project executive, Riverloft, we always like your saying lessons learned.
Yes.
And you always have a lot of lessons from all your experience. and you say lessons learned, that happened in that project, make sure it's not happening here, and you have all that experience, which is great, and we love it.
All right.
And so we don't have time for all the lessons learned, but I would like to hear your 3
Oh,
biggest lessons learned as a developer,
okay.
and then your 3 lessons learned as a real estate investors. What would you? A lot of the listeners here would be potential real estate investors or current real estate
Right.
investors, so that would be the same. But first one is a developer. What are the 3 most important, or 2, or 1 lessons learned?
I would say 1, knowing exactly what you could build, what you have the right to build, right? That's probably one of the most important things that you need to know. 2, when you're meeting and trying to get your approvals on the projects, the people that you speak with at the city, you can have a lot of people that are work within the staff that support your project. But those people I found don't vote. And if you need to go to a city commission level,
It's a whole different story.
it's a different group of people. And sometimes, unfortunately, it's based on politics,
Right.
not necessarily the merit of a project. And because where they sit with pro-development, non-pro-development,
Votes from that neighborhood.
yes, and so that's a huge lesson learned that I ended up, because I had everyone's support on a project that was at a staff level and got denied at a city commission level. And then I had to have it reconsidered and brought back up.
Okay. What would be lessons learned for real estate investors? Someone who sits in New York, Berlin, Israel, Tel Aviv, Boston, he wants to invest. Everyone is talking about real estate in South Florida now. Everyone wants to invest money. It's a growing market.
Right.
There's a lot of potential people are moving here from all over the world, and they want to put their money to work here. Whether your projects, other projects, buying property, whatever. What is the 3 lessons learned for a real estate investor?
I think one of the biggest ones is know who you're investing with.
Okay.
And have they successfully worked
Executed.
on that project?
Right.
Have they successfully been in that sub-market?
Right.
Every sub-market is different.
Right.
The people that you deal with, the contractors,
Right.
trying to get an inspection.
Right.
You know, you miss a month at this level,
Right.
it's $600,000-700,000 in interest you never get back.
Yeah.
And so my lessons learned there would be know who the people you're investing have. Do they have a track record?
Right.
And who are they? Are they good people? What do they do? You know, what are their hobbies, their passions? You know, what are they going to do with your investment?
Gotcha. Okay. Let's talk a little bit about personal life.
Okay.
And tell us a little bit. You're married. Daughters.
Married for 31 years.
Wow.
Met her in college at the University of Miami. We have
Name?
Adriana.
Okay.
So she's,
Behind every successful developer, there's a strong woman.
I think it's behind every successful person, there's a good partner, right? And so the funny thing is when I accepted the job at ZOM,
Right.
we were living in an apartment, right? And I was
Boca?
working, no, we were living in Pembroke Pines. And so we had a house that was under construction, under construction. I worked for JPI, which was a huge development company. And so great benefits, you know, go to work, keep your head down and grind, and you'll be fine. Don't do anything stupid and you have a good job. So now I get an opportunity to go work for a company and don't really know, I know what they do, but it's a small company. And Adriana really insisted that I should try it. You should do it. My parents,
supported. That's a
she's
big thing.
huge supporting. And then, so now fast forward,
Yeah.
I tell her I'm going to go on my own but she knew Frank.
I always tell people, you all want to be developers, right? And you
Yeah.
want to know, you got to sign a loan.
Oh yeah,
You're taking huge risks. You're going to sign a loan. Go talk to your wife
yeah,
and see that she's okay with you signing
Right.
all your financial stake. One project can go under,
yeah,
and the bank is coming, they're taking everything you own
yeah,
for one mistake.
yeah. It's
Because
crazy.
You personally signed that loan as a developer, and you're going to make a lot of money in a return. But if something goes wrong, you lose everything.
You could lose
And
everything.
you got to talk to your wife before, even though you want to make that
Yeah.
on paper a lot of profit and the glory and everything, but there's a huge risk. And most wives won't want you to take it. So, no, let me just keep what we
Yes.
have. We don't need more.
Right.
Why take the risk? Loans, what are you talking about?
Yeah.
Right? So,
it's a big risk.
You need the right partner
Yes.
that believes in you and is okay with the financial what's the word? Leverage.
Yeah.
Big financial leverage.
Huge.
Huge financial leverage. When you take 100 million and then another 100 million here, they might have $400 million loans running around.
That's funny. When one of the candidates were running for
You still
president.
good with that?
Yeah.
I never had I don't know. Yeah, it doesn't bother me.
Doesn't bother me.
As long as you're doing the job right, you know what you're doing.
You know, for me, I keep my head down and I just grind.
Right.
Right? It doesn't, that's really just it.
Right.
And so, no bad boy stuff. I know I'm working my ass off for the investors. And so, at the end of the day, it's not the architecture, although all the architecture, all the awards, everything is what we are architects and our other professionals. And so what I learned on my side, or our side, is that when you have investors come in, we are really graded on the return to our investors. And so the best way you could do that is by having good architecture, having great consultants, and building an amazing product that gets your investors the biggest return for their money. And then they want to reinvest with you. So you'll never hear an investor go, wow, I made no money, but wow, look at how nice that building is, right?
Yeah. Right. And then the second thing, on a personal, you have $2 in college,
Yep.
right? Which universities they go?
One goes to USF in Tampa, and the other one starts at FAU.
Great.
So she'll be living on campus, and we'll be empty nesters. So that'll be interesting.
That's switch. My daughter left home.
I don't even want to think.
Switch
I don't
our
even want to think about it.
dynamics and
Yes.
everything,
Yeah.
switched, 180 degrees. And so another thing that I know from the 2 years or 3 years that we've been spending together is your passion for sport cars.
Yep.
We talk about cars all the time. We sent listings of cars to each other. Oh, wait, look at that one. And
Cars, watches.
My daughters, and we always drive each other crazy. Oh, you should change your car, or whatever. But I know specifically with you told me it's not that much the brand, but I know you really like the Ferrari.
I do.
You have the memorabilia, the stickers. You own a Ferrari. You go to you have the sport car tours and.
They do rallies.
Yeah.
It's
a big passion of yours. You got at home. You got
a racing simulator.
racing simulator. It's also a Ferrari, right? It's an expensive toy.
No, it's not from Ferrari. It just has a Ferrari sticker on it.
Okay. But it's not a PlayStation.
No.
Serious machine. It's a machine. They're expensive also.
Yep.
That you relax on the weekend doing
That's
it?
my passion.
That's your passion on the weekend.
And
so you
so-
drive your car
Oh yeah, I'm always.
or drive the simulator on the weekend?
I'm always doing something.
And so you were telling me something that I never heard before, and I thought it was amazing, and I wanted you to share it. The tour you had last weekend, where you had your cars, like you have a bunch of friends that all have like exotic cars, and you ship the cars in a container, not a container, it's a transporter, somewhere up to the mountains in North Carolina, South Carolina.
Yeah, North Carolina. Structure. We had secured parking.
Okay.
So in this particular hotel we were in our own area with secured parking in there. There's all kinds of exotic cars.
What do you mean security? It's like a guard?
Yeah.
A guard, security? Okay.
There's like 25 cars in there. And what's interesting is this group, it's all other business owners. And so it's a great way for us to forget about the day-to-day for a couple of hours or days. We're all still kind of working. I took a conference call while I was driving in the mountains. And I'm like, guys, we all have walkie-talkies.
So when you go up those mountains, and you need to trust the other driver that
Yes,
knows what he's doing.
absolutely.
If he makes a mistake,
You're off the mountain.
you're all off.
Yes.
It could be a chain.
Oh, it could be nasty.
You got to trust
Yes.
the other guys.
Yeah, we all know each other for years.
Right.
All other most of them are all business owners, and we share
So what's the
ideas.
nicest car that was there?
There was an SF90, a Ferrari SF90. That's a great
That's a
car.
great car, okay.
There was
Red? Is it red?
it was a red Ferrari.
Is your Ferrari red?
It's red.
Ferrari has to be red? Like,
No, for me it does, but yes, it can be any color. I know Daron loves Ferraris.
No, I'm
And so
not
what's
a
crazy, I started thinking about it. So back in the day, I'm
Yeah,
trying to
I'm
think,
not a Ferrari.
you asked me how I got involved, and I started thinking, Frank was a huge Ferrari fan. And now that I think about it, at one time when we had our office building back in the day, we had like the whole second floor of a building. And so we had all our cars out in the front. And so I think that's maybe where it all comes, because you were asking me, where did this passion come from?
Right.
And maybe it's just keeping the legacy from him.
I would go into that passion, but more like retro cars when my daughter moves back to Miami, if she does.
She will.
And then I would start collecting retro
Yeah.
stick cars, M3, BMW from the 80s, 911s, so we can drive it around the weekend.
So it's funny is with Frank, one day when we were looking for our first Ferraris, his son and I, JP and I, were looking for our first cars. We had Porsches at the time. All our friends had Ferraris. So we'd go to all these car shows. And again, it just happened to be Ferrari. Could have been McLaren, Lamborghini. But all our friends have Ferraris. And so we'd go to the car show. We'd leave our Porsches and walk down the street and hang out with our buddies. And JP says, we should get Ferraris. I was like, absolutely. Frank had them. We got them. And then from there, I was telling Frank, no, I want to get a car where I can spend time with my family. Excuse me. He said, you know, Robert, you work your ass off. At the end of the day, you're here first one in the morning, you're one of the last guys, you're here on the weekends. If you want your own time with your car, because that's really what it is, and it's almost an achievement. When you sit in that car, it's all the shit that you've gone through to get to that. It could be anything. Some guys like boats, some guys like watches, some people like houses. I just happen to like cars.
So if you switch Ferrari, what would be your passion? What would be your second car would you move into? Your new passion, if you ever did?
It would probably.
I don't think you would, but if you ever.
But I would probably.
If you think about cheating about Ferrari, who would?
I'd probably end up in a McLaren.
McLaren.
A McLaren. Or maybe, you know.
Shaking her head.
All right, yeah. We have an approval from the director. She likes the McLaren.
McLaren,
How about the Lamborghini?
You're McLaren?
She's really more of a McLaren. Porsche.
Porsche number one.
Yes.
Porsche. Vintage Ferrari.
So we went on the run there were 3 Porsche GT3 RSs with aftermarket exhausts, all great, amazing drivers. And so those guys we all left with smiles. And
You're faster than Ferrari?
a different car. Road-wise, my car is more of a street car.
Right.
Those GT3 RSs are really track cars.
Right.
And so you want all the aero to keep those cars down on the road.
Right.
But we had a good time. And I think that passion for cars gets you the ability, just for a 2-seater, it's just normally me, to be in your passion. It can be anything.
Right.
My other David, unfortunately, passed away in an automobile accident. His passion was houses. His house was amazing. And that's where he spent his time.
So let me ask you about Moderno, and I work with Moderno. So you got to work with some of our investors in Moderno,
Yep.
private investors from all over the world. It must have been an experience from you.
I only
you built
laugh.
a relationship. You
Yes.
know, you got Yves and Zev and Christopher and Rami and Eyal's father and a whole bunch there of guys. How was that experience for you?
So the craziest story, the reason I laugh is, so when we started talking, I didn't know who you guys were. And so I have people that wanted to invest on my side.
Right.
And we want to be in that building. It's going to be a great building, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, I don't even know who these guys are, right? And so if I lose my money, I lose my money. But I can't lose your money. I don't even know who these guys are. And they said, you're going to sign over $100 million loan with somebody you don't know? I have a gut feeling. I just don't like, but I'm willing to risk me, but I'm not willing to risk you. And that's where it comes to the investors, right? I could have told the other guys, sure, come on in, and it's going to be great. But I didn't know. But having said that, I'll tell you,
your intuition.
I went with my gut, my
We didn't know.
intuition.
We didn't know. We
Right.
heard some good things about you, but we didn't really know who you were. You didn't know you're part of the tribe.
But I will say it's been
Tell us,
it's really been a great experience with all the
Tell
investors.
us a funny Zev story. So Zev, which is one of my earliest investors,
Yeah.
he's been investing in me 15 years. He invested in the project, but he also invested through the project through your fund.
Yes.
You did your own equity into the deal. And so I know you had a funny relationship. You're very close with him.
Yeah.
Tell us a funny
So-
Zev story.
So Zev and I are sitting at 4 West, because I toured the building with him, just he and I, and we're sitting next to each other.
And Zev is a very shrewd, high-tech investor, was a chairman of a big public
Right.
company, has a lot of experience, but he's a very cool guy.
Great guy.
Unconventional at the same time.
Very. So he says,
A coacher, life coacher.
he says, so,
Like life coach,
yeah.
a business coach.
Well, he, I know he's very bright,
Right.
right? Based on our conversations. And so we're sitting together and he looks at me and he says, how about if I give you X dollars? And I said, okay. And then he said, if I give you more than X dollars, do I get more of a return? I said, no. I said, you get the same return, you just be prorated on the more money that you put in. And he says, okay. And this was all of a half hour. He goes, okay, I give you X dollars. And I said, done. We shook hands and that was it. And then he said, when do you need me to wire the money? That was it. I was like, I love this guy. And so, but I know that a lot of it had to deal with the trust that he has with you and your team, right? And I was just a venue to go through to become more within the project.
He's a great guy.
He, super nice guy. Might not
Family
have
office, we're working from Berlin.
the whole.
Amazing.
All right, Arthur, Eves,
Right.
Harry, all those guys make our jobs easier because they allow us to do what we do.
Right.
And so for us as developers, it's all about trust.
Right.
Right? And if you know that you got your investment, your family investment with a group that I take very personal. And so I always say that if you're going to say anything about Robert and NCC Development, I would say that we are great co-developers.
Right.
And so I take that.
So that brings into the thing. You really like a lot of the projects, you come in as a co-developer. So
Yes.
a developer, and we're talking about doing future projects and even maybe funding future projects that you do that maybe Moderno is not the main developer or just helping raise money. We have a lot of trust in you, and I've
Thank
seen
you.
your work for the last 3 years. But sometimes it could be a co-developer, and so you're okay with it. You enjoy, I think, having partners.
Yes.
Because I think all your deals, if I look at it, you always have. I am the same way, but I always had a partner.
Yep.
For some reason, I've never.
Well, I think when you have a co-partner or co-developer and a partner, there's a lot of things that we go back and forth on, right? And when you want to go on vacation or you need to go out, you can count on me. If I need to go out, I know that I can count on you. And it's the same thing with my own. That way, everything, because I have friends that own and they're their own CEO of a company, and it's only their decision. There's no. I'd rather take less.
Right.
And not have all the control,
Right.
and have somebody that I co-develop with.
On the 4 West deal, it's
Yep.
very close to Riverwalk. Also, there was the landowners that owned the land,
Yep.
but they had zero experience.
No, one of them did. They had, so
They
one.
brought you in as a co-developer.
Right, for the high-rise
Right. They
experience.
didn't have high-rise experience.
Right, but those guys, some of them had development experience.
Oh, they did, okay.
And so we had other projects, NCC had other projects, and we put everything in a basket together, all the projects together.
Oh,
And
with them.
With them that I had. Because we had other projects that we needed equity on. They needed this, so we said, we'll just do, I think it was 4 of them at one time, is what we did.
Oh, wow, I didn't know that.
Yeah. And so we had some stuff in Boca that we were working on that we brought them in.
I called one of them, I remember, to find out, who is this Robert?
Who is this knucklehead?
And he had only great things to say about
Yeah,
you.
it was a great team. Those guys were down, in the trenches every day. And so it wasn't me, it was us. They did a lot of the work.
I'm known in Fort Lauderdale, I think.
Yes. The whole family, they had 2 big families that were in that project.
Right. And so, last question that I have was, how was your experience working with Moderno Development?
Excellent.
I mean, you trusted us a lot.
Yeah?
Joined the team. I know you like Eyal a lot. that is a major part of the team.
Yep.
Tell us a little bit how the Eyal Sapir did. Were you positively surprised
Yes.
by his performance?
Oh yeah. Normally you get the one. I know he had some experience.
Right.
One.
He built a lot of townhouses.
One. But you know, it's all about who you are as a person, right? And so for him, for me to talk about him, is that he doesn't stop and keeps going, very dedicated, right? Very focused,
Right.
And just a really a good guy, a fair guy, and just just puts his head down and works.
And funny.
And funny.
Because you have to enjoy it, right?
Oh no, we all have a good time.
Great time.
Great time.
We do. You can't hear some of the jokes.
The director's shaking her head. I don't want to hear any of that nonsense.
We have a great time. We don't laugh a few times.
We're always laughing.
Someone, then we're not doing our work.
But yeah, so my experience with your group, from everybody, Tomer, you, the lighting designers that you brought, stuff that I've never experienced working with you, with you.
Crown Residential.
Yes.
Crown Residential.
Crown Residential. Very, from a property management standpoint, but what you do, what Daron does, right, that I've never experienced is we just hire architects, we hire interior designers, and you just let them do their thing.
Right.
And so for you, the bar always is higher, which I love. And in the sense where we're out selecting slabs.
Haven't done that in a while, huh?
I've never done that for my house, but I've never really gone out. I've selected trees.
With Natasha.
With Natasha. Oh yeah, amazing, very talented.
To see every slab in the store. We did this one slab, right?
We're picking furniture.
Look at this one.
I don't like the veining in this one.
Finish it? No. We haven't finished the tour.
Right, a bunch of perfectionists, which is awesome, right? And so, if you looked at the differences, is that for this group, the ownership group, including Natasha, because from a design standpoint, you guys all take it very personal. It's just not, good is the evil to great. Right. And so a lot of times it's just good enough. Yeah. And so what I found with your group is it has to be great. Yeah. And I love that. And I too, I have a huge passion for it.
Holding it. It's a different mindset, right?
No, but even no.
Long-term holders.
Even though no, because I have other projects that are holds. But so when I built with other developers, they came in.
Oh, they're holders.
And they were long-time holders. I could stay in the deal, or I could come out.
Most developers are merchant. Explain to us what is a merchant developer. I mean, I heard that term the first time from you.
Okay.
So, and then I had to figure out what is he talking about. So probably most people here.
So merchant developers, you buy a piece of property, you go through the entitlements. It can be a value add, buy something existing, what have you. But you go through the process, and it's based on the return within 3 to 5 years.
And you sell it.
And you sell it.
Whatever.
Right, and you sell it.
What do you think was the when we had many obstacles, like in any project, but we had some obstacles we had to get over in Riverloft. What we think was the biggest obstacle we got out? Like it was almost like, oh my God, what happened? How do we get out of it? And we managed to push that boat out of it.
I think.
What was the one issue that you remember the most?
Power. Trying to get temporary.
Tell us a little bit about how difficult. And how long? I think it was 3 years that Eyal was working on it. Something like that.
So it took a little while to get temporary power, and longer than we anticipated. Right. And so there's a cost associated with that. And so you carry contingencies for those type of issues. But a lessons learned is...
We had a generator powered by gas.
Correct.
For 3 or 4 months.
Yep.
Not to slow down the building. We didn't have temporary power.
Yep.
And FPL just takes their time.
Yep.
Right. They have other things. They got storms or whatever. They got to take care of other problems.
So a couple things. Building permits. When you think you're going to get a building permit.
Which we were late also.
We were late. But that really was...
It didn't have a big impact so much.
Right, that didn't. It was really...
Right.
I think it really, that's true. I think that power was something that you have to be able to bring the contractor to the site and put them to work.
Right.
And I think that's we worked with Moss, did a great job of getting us on track.
They helped us a lot.
Right, helped us a lot. They figured out, look, if you're missing this component, which was the power component from FPL and 3-phase, temporary power, then we'll figure this out. And that's why you carry contingencies. So from an investor standpoint, it didn't affect them,
Right.
all right? So,
Okay. So hopefully next time we do another session like that, we'll talk more about your future projects
yeah,
and see how we can get the Moderno Club more involved.
yes, that would be
Talk
fun.
Potentially about other projects. And that's it for today, I think.